Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Today, as the topic holds, I'm going to be talking about being burnt down. God is burning down some things in our lives, and that is why sometimes we face opposition, not knowing that He wants us to start over. In Psalm 66, verse 10 to 12, I'm just going to relate this to a previous scripture that I had shared with you earlier on in First Samuel. It was about David and how he came back home only to discover that at Ziklag, the enemy, the Amalekites, had burnt down everything. And not only that, they had taken away the children and the wives of David and his men. Now, a lot of the times it is out of this burning down or tearing down of things that new things begin to come forth. It says in Psalm 66, 10 to 12, that for you have tried us, O God, which is what God does. He tries us. You have refined us as silver is refined. Why? Because we have to grow to the next level from one stage to another. You brought us into the net. You laid an oppressive burden upon our loins. You made men ride over our heads. We went through the fire and through water, yet you brought us out into a place of abundance. After about 7 lines of describing how God was harsh, quote unquote, 6 lines, the last line, the 7th line, finally says the why, which was to bring us out to a place of abundance. It could have been that you have been through what you would call hell and fire, but at the end of the day, it's to bring you out to a place of abundance. It's kind of like you have to let go of the dross. You have to get get rid of the waste and what is no longer of use to you, for you to discover what is of value. And in the process of refining, that it is only that which is truly of value that is left after the fire has burnt down. It says in Job 28, surely there is a mine for silver and a place where they refine gold. Iron is taken from the dust and copper is smelted from rock. The abundant material is actually what should be thrown away. It had its use, it had its purpose, but at some point you gotta get rid of the waste in your life, and not just a physical or people. It's also to do with our souls. We need to be refined, and God refines us. He does a fuller's work. A fuller is a person who cleans garments and makes them clean. A fuller's job is to clean, and that's what he does. He cleans our laundry, our dirt. He takes it out. And the fire is good because we get to discover now what is imperishable about us. When we come out stronger and more durable, you discover traits, you discover properties about you that you didn't even know existed until you had to go through that fire. And they brought out what is the more endurable and the more durable aspect of you, which is what is the eternal, the imperishable. We see that in Colossians, talk about the imperishable. God is immortal. God is incorruptible. And for us to discover our properties of God, which is our godly properties, it's not of our own, but it's blended with Him. It's blended with His Spirit. He makes our spirit more like His Spirit, or He activates the part of our spirit that is really Him, which is what He coded in us before He set us out into this world to do His mission. You discover what you truly are about and what truly matters about you when you go through the refiner's fire. So it says you have tried us in Psalm 66, 10 to 12. You will be tried, but in that trying, it is refining. You have refined us as silver is refined. You have brought us into the net. It seemed like you were in a trap, but it wasn't a trap. It was really to bring you out into your abundance. Because in fighting to get out, you discovered who the God in you is and what he looks like and the characteristics of you that are imperishable. And then you laid an oppressive burden on our loins. Even through that oppression, you got to be creative and you got to be a better person. You learned to love. You learned to be kind. You learned to endure. You learned to be persistent. You learned tenacity. You have made men ride over our heads. You learned humility. You learned to pursue. You learn to run, because when you're being pursued, you don't just stay in one place. You find ways of getting out, and you learn to call on God. You learn to be humble before him and to reverence God. We went through the fire and through water, which means you made it through, yet you brought us out into a place of abundance. The exiles, when Israel or Jerusalem was raided, one of the things that was typical in those days is that they burnt down the cities. Even today, when there is war, there is one aspect that is usually very common is a ravaging and the burning up of the conquered city or the conquered place. We don't see it as much now, but even where there is a war-torn place, there is usually smoke, there are fires, and that represents destruction. But even then, God said that there'd be a remnant. And out of that purification, people got more serious with God, and we see them coming back even from exile to rebuild the city. People like Nehemiah, we see people like Daniel who were fasting and praying for Jerusalem and restoration of Israel. We see people like Ezra coming back. There was something about their spirit now that was more refined. It was more tenacious. They were more serious about the things of God. And the one thing they mourned was the burning down of the temple. Because, if you remember, Solomon had made it with all this gold and precious, material. And it was really expensive. And it was all decked out in gold and, all this expensive wood. But it had been burned down and some things had been stolen. And they mourned that it was in ruins. So when they came back with a new zeal to restore the worship of Yahweh. And that is my prayer for you today, that whatever you're going through, you will be restored with a new zeal for the worship of Yahweh. And may this be true of your life, that you'll be refined, but you will go through. It says we went through, which means you will not be consumed. You will go through the fire and through the water. It will not overwhelm you, but you will come out pure. That purity is Jesus Christ, is the Spirit of God in you that will be revived, that will come out, that will manifest, that will shine through you. So may you shine like a polished silverware or gold. When you come out of this, may you remember that it is to bring you to a place of abundance. It is only a tool that is refined, that is of use, because it is not durable. It can now be used. It is now a material that can be used even for a weapon. You can imagine if you try to use a weapon made of iron, it will rot. It will be high maintenance. But God, in using us, remember we're talking about getting into our Canaan, which is our real place of rest, and where we should be working from a place of rest. Yes, working, but from a place of rest. Why? Because that's our purpose. And to do that, God needs to be able to use you. And as a tool has to be made out of a material that is durable, that is tenacious, you got to go through the fire. It'll do you good. So thank you for listening. May you take care, and God bless you. Bye-bye.